Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. I'm gonna go live over here on Instagram as well. Wait for that to kick off there. All right, wait for some people to roll in here. Is this mic coming through? Doesn't look like it is. YouTube never makes life easy here, huh? Welcome in, Instagram. Hopefully, people will see if that works. I don't know how to change the settings on on YouTube. Mic's good. Sick. All right. I've been doing this for a few weeks over on Instagram, decided this week to go on YouTube and Instagram. But basically, I work from home Tuesday mornings. We film a podcast. This week it's going to be debate night. Typically, it was the off season. And so I was going live on Instagram, decided to go live on YouTube too. So now I'm live on both and basically just give you a little peek behind the scenes with some stuff we've got working at Foundation, answer some questions. I'll take questions from both chats. I also put a story up on Instagram yesterday to get some questions. This is more focused on like running a disc golf business, running a business in general, the social media side, answering questions about that. But if people want to see what random discs are behind me or whatever stuff like that, then I'll do that as well. But the first thing I wanted to talk through is last week we had the 5th anniversary live stream. Our technical 5th anniversary is in like 9 days from now, but we celebrated the live stream last week. We were able to raise $2,000 for the Isaiah 117 house. And every time we go live, it's just awesome to see like people pour in to the chat, people pour in with generosity, like when we do the sales-a-thon live streams and they have a charity aspect and people are able to donate and money goes straight to charity. I think that's, it's always just incredible to see Foundation Nation, all of our fans and everything come through, all the support that comes through there. It's unreal. And it's just a blast. It's a ton of fun. We have punishments on the line. We have all kinds of stuff. And so this year we have an increased focus in general on live streams. I think it helps build the community a lot more. We've seen it with Tour Life. Tour Life does a lot. Obviously, they have a weekly live podcast. We'll be live tonight. If you don't watch Tour Life, you should check that out. And we've seen like them be able to build a community. And whenever we're live, we see the same people in the chat on the Foundation YouTube channel. So we're not going to do all sales-a-thon live streams. You might have noticed with Connor's Ace live stream, the last time we did it, we went live on YouTube instead of just on Instagram. We're going to definitely keep doing that. We're literally, Trevor and I are texting right now about a putting live stream that might take us 12 plus hours. If you've seen what's going on at Barstool, they just finished. They were doing this like free throw challenge, and you already kind of know what's coming your way from Foundation here shortly. But more live streams like that where it's just all hang out, have a good time. Y'all will get to watch us suffer. That seems to be people's favorite parts of live streams. And just hang out. I think that's definitely an increased focus for us this year on the content creation side, because going live, the end of the day, it's just really easy to create content because you just go live, you hang out, you talk to people, and you get to kind of make a more one-on-one connection than how we typically like shoot our videos and then post them. And yeah, we can see the comments and we can go and reply to comments, but it's not that like one-on-one interaction. The other thing that launched last week that I've been super excited about, we've had this in the work for a while, is our text deals program. If you didn't see that, I should have put it in the description down below because I don't have the number memorized. But if you didn't see, we launched a text deals program where essentially what makes this super exciting is you'll get a text to your phone and it'll have like this week's deal. So last week on the live stream, we dropped vultures for I think like $10. Then we did mystery box on Friday for $15. And now this week, the deal is going out today to patron members, tomorrow to our general text deal list. But what's exciting about it is you just reply to buy. So it takes out that friction point where you have to go find your card, you have to plug in your shipping address, you have to do all of this, and we're able to offer these like super sick deals. It's gonna, some stuff's gonna be apparel, some stuff's gonna be discs, some stuff's gonna be accessories. We can do custom run discs, we can do all kinds of stuff. But it's just as far as I know, we're the first people to bring this to disc golf. I've seen it in the coffee industry. Shout out. I've seen it in the wine industry. Like if you've seen Gary Vee, you follow him much, you've probably seen him push his wine text thing. So I've seen this in other industries, but we wanted to bring it to disc golf, and we have, and we're super excited about it. We partnered with a company that kind of helped us on the back end, and we were able to launch it. Really successful launch on our front. It was more interest than we thought, but it's a really cool just program where you get a text, you see it, and you're like, oh shoot, a Z Vulture for $12, and then you just reply how many you want, and boom, your order's in. You don't have to go to the website, you don't do any of that. So we're super excited to bring that to disc golf. We're super excited about different ways we can use that. And what that's going to look like for us. We're brainstorming a bunch of stuff, but that was a big thing business wise last week that we had there that had been going on in the background for a while. So super excited to have that finally be public, be launched, and ready to roll. Got a few other things that we're working on that hopefully I'll be able to peel the curtain back in the next few weeks on these live streams, but not quite ready yet. But like I mentioned, debate night returns tonight as well, which means the end of the off-season podcast. Some people are probably happy about that. Some people are upset. And that also is the official split of the podcast channel. So debate night's back because the season's starting again, which means that Grip Locked next week is going to its own channel. I wanted to touch on that before I start answering questions, because I've got a ton of questions about this. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people on the outside. Like, why split Grip Locked off to its own channel? What does that mean for the rest of the podcast? What does that mean for the Foundation podcast channel? What's the thought process behind this? And more or less, the reasoning we have for it is we have more content than we can really put onto one platform, if that makes sense. So with our with Grip Locked, we have the main episode on Monday. Then we typically try to cut 2 to 3 clips if we're all there and work is a normal routine. Then we try to cut 2 or 3 clips out of each episode. So that's like from one episode of Grip Locked, you might be 4 videos there alone. Then we're also having the Grip Locked preview show, which is replacing the disc golf preview show, but the Grip Locked preview show that'll be happening later in the week, right? So now we're up to 5 videos from Grip Locked, and we wanted to add a reaction content to where there's breaking news in disc golf. We have a chance to hit it right away. So we saw that with like the Eagle McMahon sponsorship. I forget what other ones Trevor was able to do, but like UDisc Live, the end of UDisc Live, stuff like that. We wanted to have that type of content. And when you put that with the fact that Tour Life is also wanting clips, right? Tour Life is a really big podcast. We want to cut out the interviews. We want to cut out all these different 4 to 5 minute clips that are just more consumable to help grow that brand. So now you would have Grip Lock putting out like 5 or 6 pieces of content, Tour Life putting out 5 or 6 pieces of content, debate night, there's no reason we shouldn't be clipping that. So then debate night, once the clip, out of nowhere, it's having 4 or 5. And then the same thing we have in the bag on Fridays. And, if the preview show were to sneak in there too, then like basically what was going to end up happening is every day of the week on the podcast channel was going to have like 3 to 4 videos. And the other frustrating part as a consumer in the long term is like, if we keep adding podcasts to the Foundation Podcast Network, then like eventually you're a really big Tour Life fan or you're a really big Grip Lock fan. You subscribe to the Foundation Podcast Network to watch that. And then next thing you know, you're getting all of these podcasts that you didn't ask for. Because maybe you don't like Brody and you like Trevor and I, or maybe you don't like Trevor and I and you really like Brody. If you're subscribing to the Foundation Podcast Network, you're getting all of us. So by splitting Grip Locked was the first one to move to its own channel, it'll let people subscribe to just what they want to subscribe. And it'll let us be able to create content at the rate we want to without worry of overlap and not letting content have enough time to breathe through the algorithm. The assumption is this move is going to go very well this upcoming week based on what we've already seen with the Grip Lock channel and based on kind of how each show has its own community. If that is true, then come a month or 2 months from now, all podcasts will split and the Foundation Podcast channel will become the Tour Life channel. Why would that happen? It's because the Tour Life already has a kind of like member community being built out. And so with that member community, it'd be hard to transfer that to a brand new channel. So it makes more sense, split everything else and leave what's already standing there as the Tour Life channel. So that is the full, pull the curtain back. This is our reasoning why Grip Lock's going to its own channel. What does that mean for future shows down the road? And any shows that we launch will now be launched on their own channel. Because that also helps us see like, is this actually a good podcast or is this getting traction because we already have all these developed podcasts and a developed fan base? So I understand where it's a little frustrating if you've been following us for a while, you like all of our podcasts, you now have to go subscribe to a bunch of other places. I get that. But in the long term, I think it just makes more sense. The weekly warehouse update, Real Slim Brady just asked about it. That's already split to the Disc Golf Review channel. So we went ahead and made that split, mainly because we were having clips go up, and then Friday was also in the bag, and so it was just really hard to get everything we needed to happen on Friday to happen. And weekly warehouse was the easy one because most of the traffic for the weekly warehouse is driven from our email list, so it doesn't really matter what channel it lived on. And it's helping keep the disc golf review channel alive while it's dead right now, while there's no disc reviews, so that when we bring that back here, hopefully in the next month or so, there's still at least a flow of traction and at least a flow of we're in the algorithm still because something's being posted there. So good question though. All right. Hopefully that gives you a little peek behind the curtain, answer some questions. Go ahead and fire away questions. I'm reading the Instagram and the YouTube chat. So go ahead and fire some questions away in there if you have any. But I actually got a question around this one a lot on the Instagram story. So I'm just going to go ahead and lead off with this one, and then I'll pop back in and answer whatever questions we have in the chat. I'm drinking up Ethiopian Natural this morning, by the way. Some people were asking coffee. Ethiopian Natural. I believe it's the RD from Third Wave. But the initial question was from D Molson DG. Said, "Are you, Trevor, and Connor best friends outside of work?" And then a lot of people were asking, how did me, Trevor, and Connor meet? And then Wes Duggar asks, is it ever difficult running a business with friends? So it'd be easy for me to kind of run through all of these as one big question. Are Trevor, Connor, and I best friends outside of work? I mean, we're really good friends. We don't do a ton outside of work because we see each other all day, every day. But typically, like, if there's something any of us are doing that's like people are coming with us, all of us are invited, typically. So like, you know, the Super Bowl party this past weekend, all of us were watching the Super Bowl together. We have a like weekly, it's called Park Days, but basically during the summer, go to the park on Tuesday nights. All of us and a bunch of other friends are a part of that. So yeah, um, best friends outside of work, I would say yes. And then how do we all meet? We all met in college. So we all played on the disc golf team at Liberty at different points. So I'm the oldest. And Trevor joined the team my sophomore year, I believe. And then I think Connor joined my junior year, if I'm not mistaken. We then hired Trevor my senior year, right after I graduated from college, is when Trevor came on to Foundation. And then we hired Connor a year later. When I was a year removed from college is when Connor started editing our videos part-time and then eventually full-time. And then is it ever difficult running a business with friends? I mean, absolutely. Yeah. It's well worth it because you get to literally just hang out with your friends all day, every day, which is, I think, why like we have the best jobs in the world, because even in super stressful moments, your friends know how to get you back into a good mood, or at least like they know what to do, you know, but they also know how to push your buttons. And so that's obviously one side of it. But I think for me personally, being like the owner operator of Foundation, there can be like hard times to like have that line of I'm really good friends with these people, but I'm also technically their boss. That's like a really hard line to balance at different times. Fortunately, we've never had like disciplinary issues or like everyone loves what they do and everyone's freaking good at what they do. So that makes managing people very easy when everyone's passionate and pulling in the same direction. But you know, there are different weird times where you have to have different conversations, and being really good friends with someone, then I think it's almost beneficial because it allows me to, instead of just look at people as just numbers on a spreadsheet, you know what I mean? I would consider myself friends with all of our employees. Some of them I don't know that well, but it allows me, I know what's going on in all their lives. So I have a lot more empathy towards when we're making decisions or, you know, different things that you just have to do as a business owner. It's a lot easier, I think, to at least understand where people are coming from and have a good way to wrap my mind around like, okay, well, why did X, Y, or Z happen? So is it difficult running a business with friends? Yeah, but it's well worth it because you get to run a business with your friends. I mean, who wouldn't want to just show up to work every day and have basically be just surrounded by all your best friends, and you get to just play disc golf for, a decent part of your job. So I would never say that it wasn't worth it. But yeah, it can be difficult at times. All right, lots of comments coming through here. Let me see. We got some on. I did want to mention this. Joey Thompson. It's not a foundation thing, but he was asking the differences between the Pioneer V3 and V4. Y'all can't see. You can see on Instagram. That's actually a V1 above my head if you're watching on Instagram. But the Pioneer, Atlas Pioneer, if you don't know, I'm a part owner of Atlas Disc Golf Supply. And we're bringing the Pioneer V4 to the market, I believe Friday. Don't quote me on that, but I believe Friday. Um, and what are the big differences between the V3 and the V4? And I mean, obviously we've made improvements. So the V4 is the best bag yet. The big difference is in that this upper pouch, like where this part right here, if you're watching on Instagram, that was the point of contention for like the putter pocket having some issues, the bag having a few issues. So we were able to put support in that, and putting support in that allows the bag to still have the flexibility where you don't have this big clunky thing on your bag, on your back, right? You don't, still is able to morph to your back, but it adds so much support to where the bag stands up better. It just in general looks better, and the putter pocket works a lot better. So I think that is the best improvement by far. We also fixed the clips. All of the clips on the bags are metal. We didn't have many issues with them, but if they're like the consistent reason a bag was returned, if there were returned, was because the plastic, buckles in the plastic clip. So we just all of those are metal now, and the clips actually like this cool like scorpion clip. So some very cool changes to the V4. I think in my opinion, it fixes 95% of problems people had, and we're still able to bring it, I believe, for $89, which is phenomenal. I mean, obviously, I have reasons to say it, but I think it's the best value bag on the market. I don't really think it's close, but you do have to remember, I'm the owner of the business, so keep that in your mind. But I'm very very stoked for the V4. And yeah, Brad confirmed that is dropping Friday. Let's see. We'll get a question from YouTube here. Someone asked about Catch Cam Broberg boys. So Catch Cam, we tried it. I don't know if you've been a fan of Foundation long enough. Back in the day, we had a Catch Cam for a little bit. It makes editing a lot longer, and it changes the vibe of our videos entirely. So I understand where Catch Cam is beneficial, but it makes it feel a lot more like coverage when the content we're trying to make is like you're just hanging out with your buddies playing around a disc golf. And if that's the angle you're watching our videos from, then the second it cuts to a camera away from us, it kind of snaps you out of that a little bit. Um, and so there's some of the decision is definitely on. Now we have to have two cameramen. We have to have editing from both angles, and there's a lot more work. But a lot of it is we just didn't like how the videos felt. Like the videos didn't feel like what we want to put out there. Like it just changed the energy and the vibe of the video. So I think there's some videos that in the future we might bring it to, some of the more serious, like I think it could be good for the break series in the future. I think that could make sense. But we have to be very picky and choosy because we want to keep the vibe of our videos and the vibe of our channel very like lighthearted. Like I said, like you're playing around with your friends. And I feel like Catch Cam kind of gets you out of that mindset a little bit. So let's see if we've got okay, this is a fair question for coffee break. Kendall Terrell wants to know if I've ever made espresso. So a lot of you probably know this. A lot of you might not, though. My brother owns a coffee shop. I worked there for 2 years, especially coffee shop in Lynchburg. If you're coming to Worlds, I've meant to mention this in the talking points. We're actually moving in basically next door. So Foundation's retail store, all of that is moving over to right next to Third Wave. So very dangerous for me and my coffee addiction. But it's great because if you're going to be in town for Worlds, you won't have to look far for Third Wave Coffee. It's right next door. So super excited about that. I actually yesterday met with the construction guys to just confirm location of the wall, make sure we had all of the receptacles going in that we needed, all of that, and then went over and picked out the flooring for the space. And they're supposed to have framed the wall yesterday or today. And the floors, I think, are what's going to take the longest because they just might take 1 or 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of start moving pieces over there a few weeks from now, and then we'll get the retail store moved over shortly after that. So very, very exciting times. It's a bigger space. We'll have a bigger retail store. We'll be able to have bigger studios. There's a shower in the back because it used to be a gym. So when I do my lunch runs, I don't have to just be sweaty the rest of the day. Wasn't a deal breaker, but it's very nice. So long story short, I've made a lot of espresso. I've drank a lot of espresso. Um, I have a espresso machine upstairs, and on days I don't feel like a pour over, I do Americanos. So, see if there's any other on Instagram here. Oh, another question from Kendall. When will you need to hire more staff? Seems like you're really leaning into media, and it feels like you need someone on the back end if you all are going to be the face of it. Keep grinding. We've grown a lot over the last 2 years, mainly on the retail warehouse space. All business Brad, rightfully named, does a lot of back end stuff with brand deals, execution of ideas. He did a ton with the tour. Trevor does a lot of the content planning, so Trevor almost works as a producer on a lot of stuff. He'll either come up with the ideas for the videos. That's like 90% of the videos he comes up with the ideas, but whether he comes up with it or not, he like kind of takes it, schedules it out as to when we're going to film it, when it's going to come out, and then figures out a lot of the what do we have to get done for it. So they kind of handle a lot of the back end stuff on that front. We're riding a fine line of like what's the best way to expand, as we expand, because like retail store and warehouse, it's pretty obvious. Like we have more orders coming in, we need more hands on deck. So boom, or the store is getting busier, or people's hours are getting limited because of class or whatever. So it's pretty easy of like when you need another hourly employee for the retail store or warehouse. The bigger roles are the tough ones because like obviously as a small business that's growing, you don't have a budget to just hire a bunch of people at once. And I don't think it'd be smart to do so either. I like the slow growth of a team so you can still feel like a family and feel like a team. Um, but you have to be wise of like when we have budget to add a position, or when we think a position can, bring in enough revenue to justify a budget, which position are we choosing? Like, is it a back end social media manager? I think that could be a valuable position here in the next few years. Is it a front of camera personality person? We definitely want to keep expanding our personalities on the show, or on the channel. So there's a lot that goes into it. And some of it is just finding the right person at the right time. And a lot of times those people find you. You don't really find them. At least that's how it's worked for us. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. When, I don't know. But we got a good flow. We got a good routine right now. And I feel like everyone's able to be very efficient. We get a ton done. And, I don't feel as if anyone has too much on their plate currently. But we can't grow but so much more without adding a hire, if that makes sense. Like people can't expand but so much more than what they currently have on their plate. We can add one or two more things in and rework how stuff goes. But if you add too much people's plate, then obviously you got to hire someone. So Charles asked, "Do you subscribe to Fellow Drops?" Fellow Drops, I don't subscribe to it, but they're one of the people who had the text deals program like we're using. So we actually, if you go to our website, foundationdisc.com, and you scroll to the bottom, there's a little link that says text deals. You can actually sign up there. You can also read more about the program. But basically the design inspiration for how I did that page came from the Fellow Drops page because they're one of the people doing it in the coffee industry. Fellow's a very big brand in coffee, and for a good reason. Consider yourself quoted. Oh boy, it's never good when Shay says consider yourself quoted. You never know what that was in reference to because I'm way back on Instagram comments. All right, let's get some more YouTube comments here. Do I have any new running goals? This is actually a good one too, because Ultra JD asked me on Instagram what my next race was. So I feel like it kind of both lines up because running's actually been a big part of, I know this is more business focused, but running's been a big part of how this business has grown over the last 2 years realistically, because it's like the only time, especially as a new father, it's like the only time where it's just me. It's just me in silence. So I can really just think through whatever's going on, whatever I got to solve. I can think through video ideas. I can think through marketing, plans and strategies. Um, and a lot of that has been solved during runs. And what keeps me motivated is putting a race on the calendar. Because once something's on the calendar, like you got to train for it, or else you're going to show up to a marathon and just crap the bed. So what's the next thing I'm training for? What's the next race? Is my plan this year is running a marathon. Last year was incredible. I know I technically ran it in January, but the part that got me to run it was all last year. It was incredible, but it was so time consuming, the training process. And when you have a family and a wife and a kid, you're not the only one training for a marathon. Like I'm, now every Saturday, Liz is by herself for 2+ hour runs every single Saturday. Every day during the week, I've got to get my run in to make sure I'm, progressing. So sometimes that means running at night. Sometimes that means running as soon as I get home from work. Sometimes that means I have to get up early in the morning and go for my run, and she has to get Luca up. And so when you decide to train, it's not just a you decision, it's a family decision. So as much as I loved the marathon, and as much as I'm definitely going to do one again in the future, training for another one this year, I don't think makes sense. So instead, my goal is to run a sub 2 hour half marathon. I'm gonna pick a half marathon in November. I'm looking at two. One is, I believe it's called the Star City half. It's in Roanoke. The other one is alongside the Richmond Marathon in Richmond, Virginia. And my goal is to run it in a sub 2 hours, so like a 9 minute pace. Yeah, I can do it. I've done it once in training, um, during my marathon prep, but obviously that was like exactly 13.1 miles. And, that was at the beach, perfect weather, board flat, and I was zooming. It didn't feel like I was supposed to be able to do it. This will be, a lot hillier of a track. It'll be a half marathon, but that typically means like 13 and a half miles. So that's my plan. I'm gonna start right now. I'm just trying to keep 15 to 20 miles on the legs a week. And then come probably June, I'll start really focusing on getting some more speed work in, focusing on just like adding long runs back into the training regimen. And then if the race is in November, that'd be like August, September range is when I'll hit my training block to get to there. So very, very excited for that this year. Chris Dies Discs wants to know what software and tablet/laptop do we use for our graphic designs. So Trevor uses Canva. I'm trying to think of everyone else. I think everyone else on our design team uses the Adobe suite. So Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, mainly Illustrator and Photoshop. Um, and yeah, if I'm doing design work, it's always an Illustrator. It's what I'm really comfortable with. I will occasionally use InDesign, but we don't really do much print design stuff anymore. So I used to be really proficient in InDesign. I've forgotten a lot of the shortcuts and ways to make stuff work in InDesign, so I don't do much with that anymore. But Photoshop is where I do all the thumbnails. I'm trying to think what else we do in Photoshop. Thumbnails is the key one, but any random stuff we need. Um, and then Illustrators where we kind of bring stamp ideas to life and all of that. I don't do our stamp designs anymore. We have a guy that we work with who has been doing our stamp designs for a while now. If it's a really simple design, I'll do it. But like the Grip Lock logo, our merch on our site right now is currently me. We're in talks with someone to bring them on to do the merch designs. But I love doing design. That's what I went to college for. It's a good like stress reliever for me. So I will always do some type of design, but it doesn't make sense for it to be like we need 6 designs this month, and that has to be a priority, which means something else gets bumped. And normally what gets bumped there is typically actually a bigger priority than getting designs done. So yeah, let me go down here. When's the new warehouse moves? The warehouse isn't moving, just the retail store, and that's in a few weeks. Very excited. Dream YouTube collab that's not a disc offer. Andrew wants to know. Nick Bear. Actually, I don't know why I thought about that for more than half a second. Nick Bear, 100%. Absolutely love that guy, what he stands for, his, the message behind his content. And, he's a big reason of why I even ran a marathon, because I was kind of like started watching some of his content. Jason, who works for us, got me in, like introduced me to his content. And then, I was watching it and just, I listened to his podcast all the time. And he's a great motivator by watching what he does. He doesn't make motivational content like he just gets on a stage and speaks. You just watch how the dude dedicates himself to all these crazy endurance goals. And like last year, I think he did a what's it called when you like flex on stage? Freaking and he was jacked, like 5% body fat. I don't know what that's called. Bodybuilding show. He did a bodybuilding show and then went straight into 100-mile race prep and then went straight into a sub 245 marathon prep and like nailed all of them last year. And like he made content around all of it. Super just inspirational to watch. So that would be my answer for sure. Speaking of inspirational, I actually wanted to forgot about this question. I believe it's I'm Reed00. He said, "What's been the most influential book you've read, and what are you reading right now?" So right now, I always read 2 books at a time, alongside the Bible. So I'm excluding the Bible from this answer. So every morning I do my devotions, and then the first book I read is always some type of, I wouldn't call it a devotional book, but some type of like Christian book. The one I'm reading right now is, I believe it's called A Peculiar Glory. It's a John Piper book. Um, I don't remember the exact name. Believe it's called A Peculiar Glory, something like that. Uh, and then I always read a business, marketing, something like that book. And occasionally I'll also listen to an audiobook. So sometimes I have 3 books going on at once, most of the time just 2. The marketing book I'm reading right now is called Break Through the Noise. Really good book. It's from the people who are like behind if you remember that Cristiano Ronaldo, um, marketing campaign for his headphones a few years back when he like went in disguise and played soccer. They're also behind like the John Cena, what was that, cricket mobile campaign. If you remember that one, they've been behind. As I was reading the book, I was just like, oh, they made that too. That makes sense. So really, really smart minds in the marketing world. And this book's been phenomenal. So I'm almost done with that one. And then I'll move on to Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek next. The most influential book I've read, this one, I'm gonna go with the one. This I listened to it on during my marathon. I listened to it on audiobook. Um, but it's influential. It hasn't. There's been other books that have changed my life more up to this point, but I can feel like this one is something where it made me aware of a lot of stuff in my life where I can like now work through it. And I think 5 years from now, this will be the answer, which was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Forget who it's by. Um, but phenomenal book. Really, really great book. Like I said, I listened to an audiobook, which I don't like doing for books that I want to really get a lot out of, but I didn't think I was going to get much out of the book. And I was like, well, you know what? This should be about how long my marathon is. It was, I think it was like 5 hours some. I'd listened to it for like an hour before the marathon and then just cranked through it. And I had like 10 minutes left on the plane home to finish it off or something like that. So it ended up being a phenomenal book. So I'll probably end up buying it and reading it so that I can take notes while I read it. But yeah, really, really good book. So I'm gonna give that one the nod for the most influential. But there's been a lot. There's been a lot. I love reading. Love reading. Used to hate it. Will the Bogey Bros be coming to Paul's new Olympus course? Yes. When? I don't know. But we definitely want to do a Florida trip just in general. And that would be one of the courses on the list. Other courses are like some of the courses in Clearwater. I think Cliff Stevens. Um, I mean, if we could get a Climo collab, that would be like a dream come true. I know he can only play like 9 holes at a time or something, but man, that would be awesome. James Hoffman is the GOAT. I don't know if he wrote one of the books I was talking about, but another really good one was Atomic Habits. I just listened to the audiobook of that recently. Nick Bear and BPN all the way. Could not agree more. Have I ever read any fiction? No, I don't read fiction. I don't know. I just not for me. I tried reading on what is it called? Thursday Murder Club. I read an Agatha Christie book and I enjoyed it. And I tried reading Thursday Murder Club, and I just run into the same thing of like, if I'm going, reading is not natural for me. So like, if I'm going to sit down and read, I want it to be something that I feel like is growing me in some way, shape, or form. I want it to be filling up one of the buckets that I want to grow in. So when I read a fiction book, I know it's beneficial for like a lot of other reasons, just reading in general. But whenever I like sit down to read, I don't do uh I don't do fiction. Have I ever read Excellent Winds? I have not. Not read it. John Mark Comer is the author of the book. That is right. John Mark Comer. With Yuli being on tour life, are there any videos in the works with him? We've talked through a few different video ideas with Yuli. None have happened yet. I just spilled coffee all over myself. Sick, Hunter. Great. None have happened yet, but hopefully we will get one soon. Yeah. I think Yuli and Connor have some fake beef, so that might be tough to work through. I think he was coming after Connor for the 9 hours of gosh, I have coffee all over me now. 9 hours of trying to ace this whole three. So tough scene for Connor. We'll see what happens. All right, we're gonna take a few more questions and then we're gonna wrap this stream up. I'll be back here again next week, doing the same thing, giving you an update on Foundation, what we're working on, some stuff behind the scenes, and then fire away some questions. So I'm gonna answer one more from Instagram and then one more from YouTube. Scroll up. I know I missed a bunch of questions on Instagram up here. Oh, people were just talking to each other in the chat. That's fun. Thumber Life wants to know, what type of split do you see between online versus store sales? Do you think store sales are slightly inflated due to your content fame? So our store sales, I'm gonna just answer for the Lynchburg store. Our store sales are way higher than we expected, but we were not expecting much at all. I mean, Lynchburg's not a huge city by any means. Our local disc golf scene is not crazy. We have like in the last few years, there's been a ton of growth, but like we're not a like Charlotte or Dallas or like we don't have that many disc golfers. All in all, we have a lot of courses. So when we were opening a disc golf store, we just were basing it basically on like the club numbers where we'd sell like 100 some tags in our club, which is a decent club, but it's not like crazy. So that's kind of what we were basing it on. Is like we just assume there's a few hundred disc golfers, and hopefully the store can just break even, just that we can offer it for the community more or less, and offer it for people who are like coming into town to play the courses. We didn't realize how many people were going to come in town to play the courses, and there's way more disc golfers than we ever thought. So the revenue split wise, I mean, it's online stores obviously way, way, way bigger. Probably I'd have to look at the numbers from last year, but like it's probably 10 to 12 times bigger online versus in person. Um, but our in person store has been good. It's been better than we expected. And because basically our media side is at the same place at retail. So we have like our podcast and all that stuff over there. And our original idea was like, well, the media and everything's able to cover the rent of this place. So the front retail store basically has to break even on employee costs. And then anything beyond that's golden, more or less is how we viewed it. And now it's able to cover the like rent, and it could sustain on its own if it needed to, but it doesn't need to. So we've been very excited about the performance of the retail store, and we love the fact like we just never expected how many of you come into town or like reroute your direction to come to Lynchburg to play courses from our videos and stuff. Like it's crazy. I mean, literally multiple times a week people are coming in the shop, even through the winter, are coming in the shop from all over the country. We got like a push pin map where people can like put on the map where they've been from, and it's filling up. It's awesome. So we're super excited for Worlds Week. Because I know a lot of people are like, that's our opportunity to get to Lynchburg, and there's just going to be so many members of Foundation Nation there. So we're planning out a lot of events and signings and just fun stuff around Worlds Week. So if you haven't already decided you're coming to Worlds, you're gonna want to come. If you are coming, can't wait to see you there. All right. one more question here. So I won't answer this one directly, but I can kind of answer a roundabout way. Cameron Chronister, more behind the scenes question. Do you give Yuli royalties for logo or revenue split? So each person is slightly different. So how, because I only reason I'm answering this question in general, because like I said, each show is handled slightly different. Each influencer that we work with is handled slightly different based on what they want and what makes sense for us and their needs and everything. Um, but I want to answer this because we've been trying to figure out how to build a business like this. As far as like we want a bunch of influencers, but like how do you figure out what to pay people and what the content's worth? Is there like a revenue split model, whatever? So we've basically tried to figure out how like Barstool, Ramsey Media, like how these companies that have personalities do it. And we've asked a few people and gotten some answers to where like the general contract format is basically, and like I said, this doesn't apply to everyone by any means. But going forward, this is like when we bring new personalities in, this is kind of what we want to happen is more or less they will get part of like merch sales. Once they hit different tiers, they'll get different bonuses. Um, and then compensation is just going to be based on like how much do shows, merch, brand deals, AdSense, all of that bring in. And we just relook at that every contract term. And so it's like this is how much got brought in. This is some bonuses. If something goes crazy, then sick a new bonus because that way we don't have to. Right now with a small team, it could all be revenue split and not even a headache. But we're trying to build a business for 10 years from now. And if 10 years from now we have 20 creators that are doing content, disc golf and non-disc golf and all kinds of stuff under us, then like you don't want every single brand deal that comes in type thing to be like, okay, well, it's part of it went here, part of it went here, part of it went here. This person gets this percentage, this person gets this percentage. And then like same thing with AdSense. You don't want AdSense to come in and it's like, okay, well, I got to go through everyone's channels and figure out this person get this percent. So it's way easier just to money in, figure out, compensation based on that, and then give royalties and bonuses and incentives based on different tiers and objectives. So kind of vague, but hopefully that answers that question. I wanted to answer it because, like I said, we were trying to figure out how to kind of make that model, and you can't really find information anywhere. It's not a super common model, I guess. It's more of like a like podcast networks, I guess, would be the best place to look. But like, luckily, we consume enough content that a lot of these places are putting out that you just kind of hear bits and pieces here and there, and we were able to just like slowly over the course of like a year start putting stuff together and figure out, okay, I think this is kind of what makes the most sense and what seems to be the industry standard. So that's kind of how it works, but that's a very new development. So each person we have under us right now has different contracts, different stipulations, and all that's between us and them. So hopefully that answers that question somewhat. But all right, that's gonna wrap up this week. About 45 minutes. That's the goal each week. Is just kind of pop on here, give you give you a little peek behind the curtain, and just some questions. Hop off here within 30 to 45 minutes. So hopefully you enjoyed. Be thinking up questions for next week. I'll probably put a prompt up on Twitter and a prompt on Instagram, and then obviously I'll take questions from the chat as well. Be sure to tune in to Tour Life tonight. Tune into Debate Night. I believe it comes out tomorrow. And then don't forget to check out the new Grip Lock channel this upcoming Monday. It'll be back. It'll be on its new channel, its future home. And yeah, we're super excited for that split. So thanks everyone for tuning in.